Welcome to the 4D Combatives Firearms and Defense Network in Tampa, Florida, with hosts Lane Andrews and Nick DiMatteo. On this podcast, we discuss firearms-related topics, including legal, tactical, concealed carry, as well as weapon and product reviews. We also discuss self-defense training as it relates to concealed carry. Our first sponsor is South Tampa Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. Learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts in a family-friendly environment from some of Tampa's best martial artists. Check them out at SouthTampaJiu-Jitsu.com. Our next sponsor is Nopiate Topical Pain Ointment, the toughest topical pain reliever for the combat athlete. Get back on the grind with Nopiate Pain Relief, found only at www.nopiate.com. That's NOPIATE.com. Next episode, starting now.
Hey guys, this week's episode we'll be talking about concealed carry weapons, suppressor legislation, and also I want to talk about the binary trigger because I just got one. It's not super new, maybe it has a 500 rounds through it, but we'll definitely be going over a small review on that. And also, did I say holsters? Did I already say that?
No.
All right, yeah, so. Holsters. We'll be talking about those.
Carry.
Yeah, concealed carry. It's all under the same umbrella. So, first thing I really would like to talk about is suppressor legislation with a new Republican-controlled House, Senate. We talked about this last episode, and a president. They're talking about possibly taking suppressors off the NFA. Possibly. If it passes, it's a lot of legislation. It's a lot of roadblocks in the way, for sure. But the idea is that they're going to make them similar to buying a rifle or buying a handgun. You go in, you get your background check, and you're done. You're out with your suppressor. And I don't know. What do you think of that? I think that'd be incredible.
I think it's a beautiful thing because suppressors are... Hollywood makes them the devil.
Oh my God, they're so ridiculous. Yeah, they're so over the top.
Of all the active shooters that we've had, and you never really hear of a suppressor playing a role as if somebody's going to get away with it because their gun is quiet. First of all, most of them, especially if they're going to kill themselves at the end, they're not going to spend the money. Yeah. Because suppressors are very expensive. They're not going to spend the money to invest in a suppressor. Two, it takes away from some of the terror if they have a silent, if they have a silent weapon being fired. Yeah, that's interesting. And they could, and many of these people could very well get their hands on a suppressor. Right. This isn't, because we're not having, a lot of times, we don't have people who can't actually buy a firearm commit some of these atrocities. Yeah. Of course, there are many who get their firearms illegal or through illegal means, but the suppressor, for those of you who don't know, might be new to firearms or don't do the firearms thing at all, and your only representation of a suppressor is through movies. It's beautiful for hearing, to prevent hearing loss. Yeah. And it's fun to shoot. It's less distracting to neighbors if you're, if you live close to people and you're shooting in your backyard. Yeah. It can really reduce the noise volume. But more than that, it's just for your own personal safety. I grew up around a lot of hunters, and I don't ever remember wearing earplugs as a child shooting a weapon, which I think is probably silly. But as a child too, I was shooting very, like pellet guns and BB guns, and maybe a .22. Yeah. So the round wasn't too loud anyway. But most of the adults around me that I hunted with never had earplugs in. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy now in the position I'm in, thinking about it. It's just really bad for hearing. I just think suppressors have been made to be this evil thing that only criminals use.
Yeah, the silent assassin.
Yeah, the silent assassin comes in. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
And if that's the case, that they're probably a professional anyway. So whether they have a suppressor or not, they've got a plan to get in and get out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think the easier access would be awesome. I mean, just going to the range, there's a lot of guys who don't have suppressors, and if they got a rifle, the concussion of the rifle is a .223 round, 5.56, or a .308 round is like, and you're right next to them in the at the gun range, 2 feet away, 3 feet away sometimes, and the concussive feeling of it, it's like it literally can shake your bones. Not that it's I'm not trying to be a pussy about it or anything, but at the same time, it's also like it's kind of annoying if you're trying to like target shoot properly, you know.
Yeah, very annoying.
If you're trying to
really throws you off, and sometimes it's a little scary because you get, for those people who don't know, you get like a physical blowback from the gas and the weapon into your face, and not to mention it's very, very loud, particularly if they're shooting those and their barrel's shortened. Yeah, that can be extremely loud. So the range is definitely one consideration, but I even think outside of the range and any sort of recreational shooting, it's something that everyone should own. If they have, it's not a weapon itself. It doesn't increase the weapon's capability at all. It just makes it safer for everybody else, quieter for everybody else. So I don't understand. Well, I do understand, because before I got into firearms, you know,
everyone's the misconception.
It's the only time I saw a suppressor was in a movie with a bad guy.
Die Hard had it. Yeah, you're like, oh my god.
It was never like a good guy that had the suppressor, right?
That's really funny.
But anyway, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it is ridiculous, and like the public in general is like kind of misconstrued, and they were like, you know, like you just said, based off a movie, like based off what you see in the movies, and you're like, oh, that's what it is. But in reality, it really does protect your ears. If you're a hunter, even a recreational shooter or anything. I know, like, if it is easier to get them, I would get one just for, like, my girlfriend to put on, like, a 22, because I know she, like, you know, she shoots a rifle. She shoots even 9mm. She's like, whoa, that's, like, you know, a lot of kick for her. But I know with, like, a 22 and a suppressor, that's like a staple gun. Like, you know what I mean? That's, like, comfortable for her to shoot and comfortable to get comfortable shooting, you know? Get more, I guess, more time on the range, hopefully. But, yeah, I think that'd be incredible if they do take it off of there, and it's a lot easier to get. I think it's long overdue, but we'll see what happens. The legislation takes forever. You know, it takes forever, and there's so many roadblocks, and we'll see what happens in terms of that. But that would be a big hurdle to get over in terms of not just making it easier for gun owners, but also making it more like I guess enjoyable at the range, even indoor or outdoor, both. Really, I think it makes it a lot more enjoyable. So. Yeah, moving on though. Next thing I know I want to talk about is holsters. I know, Lane, you've got a zillion holsters and a zillion different kinds, and you conceal carry. We both conceal carry, and you probably have a lot more experience with like what's a good holster, what's a so-so holster. I guess I'll start off with what I own, and what I have is a crossbreed holster. And I carry that with my Glock, Glock 19. And I like it. It's a little bulky for me. I'm like a 155-pound dude, so it's sometimes a little awkward. But I don't mind it, I guess. Drawing from it, I don't have a lot of experience, and Lane's the expert at drawing and you know, kind of the combatives part of the podcast. So I guess take it away, please.
Yeah, no, it's well, I have a crossbreed as well. I do not wear that one. One, I find it a little cumbersome to put on. It's often like I'm kind of rushing putting my holster on to, you know, my kids think my gun safe is my closet. My one daughter, my 5-year-old, she said, oh, daddy's in his closet, you know. So, you know, I try to get it on quickly. So I don't carry with that one, but it's a very good holster. But I do hear you complain about it being a little bulky. You know, one holster company I really like that probably not many Americans know, it's an Israeli company called Frontline. I have a few of their holsters, and they hug really tight to the body. Nice. And they're either the belt loop, which I don't really wear anymore just because, again, the time. But they have some clips, some clip-on holsters that are pretty good. Okay. You know, one issue that a lot of people have with the holster is the handle, no matter where you carry, kind of popping out and imprinting on your T-shirt. Right. These I find, at least for me, hug tight to my body. Now, with that said, a different body type may get a different result. I'm a reasonably athletic, 170-pound guy, so I don't have a lot of bulge around my waistline. That may change your option when it comes to carry. But another holster that I like at the low price point is the Alien Gear stuff. Okay. You know, it's really good. It's really comfortable. It's a similar to the crossbreed. Okay. In the sense that it has the two buckles that you have to do. And it's kind of wide and built like that. But it's made of, you know what, I'm going to sound stupid if I try to even name the material, but it's a very comfortable material. It's not leather. I don't know how they perform, really long term, but they're super comfortable.
Yeah.
Very smooth draw out of those holsters.
Yeah.
So they're one of my favorite, under $50 holsters that you can pick up.
Nice.
The other thing about the frontline holsters, though, they're not all that expensive either. Some of them are under 50. Like I got a really good Kydex one.
Cool.
For under 50. I got some of the leather ones I have are a little more expensive. But 69.
Yeah.
So it's not crazy.
Yeah, not off the charts by any means.
Yeah, and those holsters are primarily designed for like a 430 carry position. The ones that we've referenced so far. What about appendix carry? Do you have any?
I personally don't appendix carry, and I know this will go into the debate that we've had a few times about round in the chamber, not round in the chamber, which probably save for another episode, or we can talk about this later.
We can talk a little bit about it.
Talk a little bit about. But I don't carry one. I don't carry in the appendix. One, it's uncomfortable for me. Sitting down, and in my job, I do sit and stand every 15 minutes or so. Actually, probably less than that. And getting up and down is a little uncomfortable. Appendix carry, I don't feel comfortable because I do carry one round in the chamber. I don't feel comfortable having it near my dick, pretty much, like blowing my balls off.
Yeah,
and
we'd want to see that.
Yeah, that would suck. So, I don't feel comfortable, and I think it's one of the things. It's personal preference for me. I just don't feel comfortable there, but I know there are a lot of guys who do it, and they probably draw faster than me. I don't know. I guess it's kind of body type maybe, and also, like I said, personal preference. What do you think?
Well, I go back and forth on this. I carry 430 a lot, and I was dedicated to 430 carry. But then there's a couple things I found with it. First of all, I really like it, and barring these two circumstances, I'd probably still carry 430. But one is, I'm often at like places like, I don't know, birthday parties or seeing friends and stuff like that, and people are hugging me.
Kids around, your family and stuff.
And I like to carry at a minimum a Glock 19.
Yeah.
So, I find myself like redirecting the arms on the hugs and everything like that. Whereas appendix carry, nobody's going to like
go in that area,
like in my, near my penis. So it's good, man. So it kind of keeps people away that way.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the primary reasons I recently started carrying that way is because I've got like a hip issue on my back right hip. So that 430 carry was only continuing to aggravate that. So I may switch back later. But the final reason I've been carrying appendix lately is I do carry without a bullet in the chamber, which is, I know, very controversial here in the States. But I feel like it helps me make up for that little extra time that I need to rack my slide.
There you go.
I think the most important thing, though, is that no matter how you carry, where you carry, what gear you have, what holster you try, you have to train in it.
Yeah.
If you're not training, if you're not doing a course where you're drawing from concealment, then you're not prepared with your weapon. I've seen it over and over and over. I had a holster. The holster wasn't the problem. But the problem was that I had a belt that was too big for the holster, and I wasn't aware of that. It was a metal clip holster.
Okay.
So I was doing a course where I'm ripping my shirt up, I'm drawing from concealment, and I pulled out my holster and my gun at the same time.
Oh.
I had the instructor who's like an Army Ranger.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, dead man's gun."
And you're like,
And I'm like, "You're 100% right."
Yeah, you're right.
So the problem was, my belt was too big for my holster.
Right.
And I see people in courses all the time that come out with these really shitty leather holsters that are just kind of all over the place. They can't draw from them. People come out with some of these retention, different level of retention holsters, and they've never trained with it, and they can't get the weapon out.
Right.
But you see all kinds of crazy shit, man. And
people,
and it's also interesting to me too that people always show up as if they open carry all the time. They've got the holster on their side, their shirt's tucked in, they're ready to go. But that's not reality.
No,
reality is you have to draw and you have to, you have to be able to access that weapon.
Right.
And regardless of where you carry, whether you carry with a bullet in the chamber or not, I think the most important thing is training. I
agree.
I have a lot of people argue with me against, and I try not to get into these debates about not having a round in the chamber, and they barely train with their weapon at all.
Yeah.
We'll go out to the range, and I'll have 5 shots off before they have 1.
Yeah.
So, regardless of how you carry, where you carry, you want to do a couple things. 1, you have to train drawing from concealment.
Mm-hmm.
2, you have to test your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get something that you think you like, and then you try it, it doesn't work, or your belt's too big for your holster.
Right.
And you start to find the flaws in your equipment when you start to do, a 6 to 8 hour course,
mm-hmm.
drawing that weapon, concealing it, instructor putting a little pressure on you, so you got a little nerves, you're trying to perform.
Right.
You really start to see the flaw in your technique. I've seen guys who've shot their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
They come out and they shoot and they draw from concealment, and they start going through the paces and fixing jams and all that stuff, and they realize, and these are the guys who know everything about firearms, by the way, right? The quote-unquote experts, right? And by the end of the course, they're like, oh my goodness, this exposed so many holes.
Right.
So many holes in my training, or not in my training. I thought I was good.
But I got a long way to go, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I can shoot very well when I've got my big gulp at the range.
Yeah.
And I'm taking my time and aiming
gulp.
every shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you like it?
Yeah,
resting my gut on the
exactly on the bench
on the
and
bench in front of me. Yeah, but then when it comes to getting the weapon out and being able to put shots on fire or shots on target in a very quick manner, a lot of people struggle with that.
Right.
And their accuracy sometimes can be terrible, if not scary.
I take your word for it. I mean, like I said, I don't have a lot of experience drawing from the holster, so it's something I definitely want to take a class on. I have to really do it. And I completely agree with you. It's one of those things that getting the experience, getting the good foundation to it, and then maybe practicing on my own after I learn the proper way is probably going to be the best way to do it, in my opinion. Yep. I don't know. But also, actually, I want to bring up, since we're talking about holsters, have you heard of the Urban Carry holster?
You know what? My friend Anthony Kuntz just sent me a text last night about that. I kind of glanced at it, and I was like, yeah, looks kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then I, kind of just pushed it to the side because I had a million things going on. But what's up with those?
No, I saw maybe about not a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago at a gun show, and the guy was like, he's like, yeah, come over here kind of thing. So I'm like, all right, man, what's this guy got? Like, he shows me this thing. He pulls the holster out completely from underneath his pant leg. So it's like all the way, I guess the gun's actually sitting around your quadricep, probably about mid quadricep. Mm-hmm. And like you pull the entire piece out, and then the gun is there, and you draw from the gun, which is in there. And the guy was explaining it to me that like pretty much you'll never have a problem drawing it out of your pant leg. He's like, there's never going to be an issue, and then the gun is there for you to grab and go. Right. So, and he's also like, it's more comfortable because it's sitting at a quadricep, not really an angle. It's not like at a weird spot in your body that bends. So he's saying it's like quicker to get out. And I saw a lot of commercials for it, so I'm interested in it, and maybe we'll do a review on it one of these days.
Test it, test it out. I mean, I kind of, question.
Is it gimmicky? We don't know.
Is it gimmicky? Yep. I'd like to try it.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that would probably be good, though, in particular if you're in an office and you got to tuck your shirt in every day. And
dress shirt or something.
And all that stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's necessary, if you've got to conceal it, rip rip your shirt up and then rip the holster out. But there could be a situation where that holster is very applicable and a good solution to a lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of people, I should say.
Maybe we'll pick one up and do a review on it, or we'll do like a YouTube video or something on it, and people can check it out and see how we're 101 amateurs at it.
Tag them on this podcast. Tell them we talked about their holster and see if they'll send us one.
Send us one, pretty much. Yeah. We'll draw from it and see how it goes. I mean, we'd be complete fresh amateurs with it, and see what kind of practice is also needed for it. As okay, you need to do this 100 times before you even know what you're doing, or it's like, hey, pick it up, get it, and go, and you're good to go.
And that's one of those things too. Like if you buy it, bring it to a course and train with it. Yeah. And see how easy it really is under pressure. It's easy to demonstrate anything, but I want to see how you do. And maybe if you fail under pressure, that could just be because you don't have reps in yet. You could be carrying 430 appendix outside the waistband, which we didn't talk about as a method for concealed carry too. which I on occasion will do that.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that in a
Explain
second.
that to me though, real quick. I don't even know what that is. Outside the waistband.
Outside the waistband carry.
So that's like big shirt on.
Yeah.
Over.
Yeah.
Like open carry without it being open.
Yeah. So it's open carry, but you cover it with your shirt.
With your shirt. Okay.
Right.
All right.
But was it Smart Carry? Is that the?
I don't know.
The Urban Carry is
Urban Carry is the name of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So test it, and if you don't do well, it could just be that you haven't drilled enough.
Yeah.
Or there could just be maybe a flaw with the system that you don't recognize until you test it quite a bit. So so with the outside the waist, some people prefer to use an outside the waistband holster and conceal it.
Mm-hmm.
And conditionally, I will do that as well.
Okay.
The holsters that I found are kind of best for that, are kind of the leather pancake style holsters.
I know what you're talking about. Yep. Yeah.
And I think I have the DeSantis holsters, and they do a pretty good job of retaining the weapon and kind of hugging tight to my body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't normally carry that way. I do if I'm wearing like a sport coat or a jacket, and I got to tuck my shirt in, but I feel like I'm in a place where I need to carry, which is almost all the time.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't. But one limitation is you can't take your jacket off.
Right.
So
sweating it out.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
But also body type sometimes, man. Dudes with kind of big love handles.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of prefer the outside the waistband holster
because they're gonna wear bigger shirts, kind of thing.
They're gonna wear bigger shirts. Yeah. They got a little something to cover up the weapon. Yeah. So it's not necessarily gonna bulge the way it would on you or I.
Yeah.
So I got a brother-in-law who, he's just telling me like, man, I'm not really comfortable with inside the waistband. I really prefer outside the waistband.
Mm-hmm.
Comfortable, and I'm like, well, I can see why it's not comfortable. That totally makes sense.
Right.
He's a little bit on the heavier side.
Right.
But so I get it, but again, you want to make sure that it's concealable, and is something that's comfortable on you, and that's something that you can draw from. That's not printing too much on your shirt.
Yeah, I feel like it would be easier to draw on the outside the waistband. Like I said, I have very limited experience in terms of drawing, but I feel like it would be easier to get to the weapon if it's on the outside.
Yeah.
Get ESPN the plug on there.
Yeah, I know.
If anybody does have experience with the urban carry, you can leave comments below, and we'd like to hear about it. And we definitely want to look into it ourselves and maybe give it a go. But let's I guess not really change gears, but kind of look at.
I had something else I was going to say on the outside the waistband holster too, and I don't quite.
We were talking about big guys.
Remember it? Yeah. There's another. I'm sure other companies make this too, but I'm going to go back to Frontline again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a Frontline whore.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a holster called a tuckable holster. It's an inside the waistband holster.
Okay.
But it's designed to wear with a shirt that's tucked in.
Mm-hmm.
I've used that a few times too, and it's a really good solution. Like if you're at a place where you might not have a jacket, or your jacket needs to come off.
Right.
The only issue with it is you are going to have to like pull your dress shirt out if you need the weapon, but it gives you another level of concealment. And it works like you stuff it inside your waistband, but it has like these leather loops that are kind of outside, so you can tuck your shirt in, and the loops are still kind of attached to your belt. Then of course you pull your shirt out a little bit to cover the loops, and the weapon doesn't show. So it's a good way. It's also served me well too in a few situations where I've got to wear a shirt untucked, and I'll probably be taking my jacket off at some point.
Mm-hmm. So gun wise, and you said you'd like to at least carry the Glock 19, which is 15 plus 1, I forget, something 15, like that, right?
15, yeah.
So you think that's the minimum to be comfortable? I mean, is it preferred on your body type kind of thing, or I mean, like if you could carry like a box drum, would you? I mean, how much how much would you carry if you could carry, or is that like the max? What do you feel?
I'll sometimes carry a 17. I used to carry a 17 all the time. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of just went to my 19.
Glock 17 or
Glock
19
17.
with a 17 round?
Sorry, a Glock 17, which is a 17 round capacity. But I've kind of recently pretty much been dedicated to the Glock 19. The 17 is a little big, but it definitely is concealable with the right holster and probably the right body type too. Yeah. It comes down, man. This is such a tricky question because I have a student of mine, and I'm not going to say his profession because it'd probably give it away, but he works in close quarters with a lot of people, like where he could accidentally bump into people with his front or his back, so carrying a bigger weapon is tough for him. So at work, he likes to carry just a small size concealable weapon, like a little 9mm single stack.
Like a Glock 43 or something like a Ruger or whatever.
Yeah,
whoever
exactly.
Makes a smaller handgun.
Exactly. But that's not a necessity. And, sometimes carrying those weapons are necessary. The reason that I carry the Glock 19 with the 15-round capacity is my main reason for carrying is not as much the criminal threat. That seems to be, in America, we often still think of carrying in terms of, hey, man, I've got to get this weapon out. I'm getting robbed. I'm already drawn on. Like I've got, it's like the Wild West. You gotta outdraw your opponent.
Yeah,
it's not
take
really
your 10 paces and
it's not really wise to try to outdraw anybody. You want to use good timing on the draw.
Yeah.
And you want to kind of disguise the draw and wait for the good opportunity to draw. But my primary reason for carrying is active shooter situation. If I'm with my family in the mall or with my family anyplace else, when it was just me, I would. And before kind of this active shooter phenomenon, I would kind of rely on, lean on my martial arts experience to help me out in a quote unquote fight.
And let me just say, Lane's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I know you have MMA fights and kickboxing. Yeah, I mean, Lane is as legit as it gets in terms of martial arts skills and black belt jiu-jitsu, and I think you fought in Japan. Krav Maga. You fought in Japan.
Yeah, I fought in Japan.
That's really cool.
Fought in Brazil back when nobody knew what MMA was.
Yeah.
And we fought like bare knuckles, headbutts, kind
Crazy.
of the whole thing. So it was kind of a nutty time and a time that doesn't exist anymore. So it's kind of cool to say that.
Yeah, you're a part of that. That's really cool.
A part of that. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So, but yeah, what were we talking about?
We were going on about the active shooter.
The active shooter. Yeah. So the reason I do that in the training that I do is kind of around active shooter type situations. And you think, typically, it takes about 3 to 5 rounds to drop your adversary.
Yeah.
Of course, there are going to be some that say, "Well, you can take them out with one if
145 and that's it."
Yeah.
But come on, guys.
Any training that I've done with Navy SEALs, Israeli Special Forces guys, Army Rangers, Green Berets, you probably have 3 rounds on target, even if the first bullet drops the guy. Even if the first bullet drops your adversary, you're not going to stop and wait for him to drop after you shoot. You're gonna rapid fire several bullets on target before you get a result. And typically that's 3 to 5.
That makes sense.
It could be a lot more, depending on the adversary, depending on how accurate you are. And you're not going to necessarily know where you hit him, especially if you aim center mass and they have clothes on. It's not like, target shooting. Sometimes you shoot and you look at the paper, man, was I on?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. But training like that is an obstacle because you're not.
Yeah.
That's not reality. You need to put shots on target until your adversary drops. So let's say it takes 3 to 5 rounds, and some active shooters work alone, some don't. So I want to make sure that I have enough capacity for 3 adversaries. Yeah. If necessary.
It totally makes sense. I think that. I'm like I said, I was 150. I am a 150-pound guy, 55-pound guy, maybe 5'10", not even. And for me, carrying a 19, and I do carry the 19. Most of the time, it's a little bulkier.
Not to mention we live in Florida.
So we live in Florida. Yeah, it's a little tougher. That's exactly right too.
It's not like an Indiana winter or something like that.
Yeah. It's a little bulkier for me. It feels a little bulkier, but I do carry it most of the time. I do carry the 43 though a lot, and that's a single stack, 6+1. At the same time, I say like, okay, if I'm going to go out and I'm going to carry something, at least I'm carrying something kind of thing, if that makes sense. Like I'd rather have 6+1 than my fists.
Than nothing.
Nothing, exactly.
Yeah,
so I know at least I have something at that point, but I do carry the 19 most of the time, but it's not always my most comfortable choice. depends on what I'm doing really. If I'm going to the movies, I carry my 19.
Yeah.
Like I always carry the 19. But if I'm going like, okay, walk down the street and I got like gym shorts on with my girlfriend, like I'll throw like the 43 on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like good to go.
Yeah. I think that's good. You know, you gotta kind of assess your risk. You know.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
Ideally, I'd be walking around with a rifle in the mall, slung over my shoulder, but like that wouldn't be cool.
Yeah,
right?
I can't. M60, like I can't.
Yeah, you know, a rifle's a much better weapon than a pistol.
Right.
But you've got to be, you know, you can be smart about how you carry, where you carry. I mean, of course, you know, you never know where disaster is going to strike or where there's going to be a situation that might threaten your life. You know, some guys will get shot in their backyard barbecuing.
Right,
you know,
yeah.
I guarantee you I'm not carrying in my backyard when I'm barbecuing.
Exactly,
you know? But you've also got to kind of assess
flipping burgers with your open carry.
The risk factor. You know, when you're in big crowds, and if you're concerned about active, I should use the term active killer because it's not always a shooter, as we saw in Columbus, Ohio, and I think it was Nice, France. It was a car running into people,
running over people.
And then the guy in Ohio, the guy got out and started stabbing. People.
That was yesterday. So,
yeah, which is very and you know, to think that a knife isn't as deadly as a gun, you know, you're crazy. It's a very lethal weapon, and it's very difficult to stop at close range, even if you're armed.
Right.
But and in Nice, I think there was a big. They had like a box truck, I believe.
Yeah, it was like a big U-Haul with like you know. I think the report said that the guy was throwing grenades out the window.
Yeah. And
shooting maybe, but like shooting and driving over people, where it's like, you know.
Well, how do you get grenades, man? Those are illegal.
I know, that's the thing. You know, the laws. It's ridiculous. But yeah, you know, it goes back to bad people want to do things. They want to get their hands on things.
Yeah.
You know, it's good people that can stop them. You know, I hate to be an NRA mantra about things. You know, but
it's one of the look. I'd much rather deal with an active shooter than somebody with a bomb.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Yeah. We said this last episode. We were talking about just like the destruction amount. Yeah, if someone.
Yeah, the destruction capability and the element of surprise.
Right.
You know, of course, the active killer, I'll say, has an element of surprise too. But that's something where they still have to deal and kill each individual.
Yeah.
On a one-on-one basis, and it gives people time to react, whereas a bomb doesn't.
Exactly, and you could even like look at yesterday, the shooting in Columbus, Ohio.
No shooting.
Oh, excuse me, the stabbing. It was a stabbing in Columbus, Ohio, and the police officer was right on spot. I guess like he was checking a gas leak or something. He happened to be right there at the time, and just shows like, you know, a guy right there with a gun stopped the guy who was stabbing people. And the fact of the matter is like, you know, you can tell the guy to stop. You can be like, hey, stop stabbing me, stop stabbing people. But you know, what's really going to end it is like force on force. You know, so
yeah, absolutely. And that could have been easily somebody concealed carrying there too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because look, Ohio State, they did a great job. They're very lucky that situation wasn't worse. And I'll praise their official and I'll praise that
the police officer.
Awesome. But the only reason it ended that quickly is because there was a police officer right there on the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had to wait for the police to respond, they would have a real problem.
Yeah, a real body count and like a real, you know, other people mortally wounded. You know, so many other people could have been hurt.
Yeah. So you think about the police officer on hand, and somebody did that much damage. And, you know, thank God nobody died. As a result. But
except the killer, of course.
I mean, if you give him, and I don't know how long that situation before the killer died, but the killer died. But you know, if you have to wait on someone to respond to that, and there's not somebody carrying concealed there, which they couldn't, it's on campus. So it would have been a lot worse of a situation because people are going to run from that. They're not going to. The best thing to do would be for everybody around to just collapse on somebody with a knife, take it away, you're going to get stabbed.
And that's like
nobody's willing to sacrifice themselves for that. You know, most people aren't.
Yeah.
So you know, it's a very fortunate situation. And we lived in Columbus for 4 years. My wife worked at Ohio State, so it was a little more personal. Yeah. For us, that situation was, but anyway, it's crazy. You know, bad people are going to do bad things. Mentally disturbed people are going to do bad things. You know, so we've got to be able to deal with those threats as quickly as possible.
Agreed. What do you think about if there was student carrying. Like, I mean, there is places that kids are allowed to carry guns on campus. I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either, because I know how much drinking I did in college.
I know.
You know, and I know I wouldn't have. I don't know how.
You know, even they're 21 and they can legally get their concealed weapons permit and stuff like that. At the same time, like, I don't know. I think about my mind wasn't at where I'm at now in terms of. I don't know, just the knowledge, I guess. Maturity, yeah, exactly. I didn't have that then.
And
so
where you carry.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a great idea, but I'm not to sound like anti-gun, like, you know, if someone who's 21 shouldn't get a concealed weapon permit. Absolutely, you should. Absolutely, you should. But carrying on campus around other people who are probably younger, maybe 18 years old, 19 years old, who probably don't have the maturity or were never brought up around guns, and they might be near the gun. Or, you know, if you're considered carrying and you keep it in your dorm room or in your apartment, in your room, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of variables in there that I'm just kind of, like, really unsure about. And I don't know if there's not a lot of studies done on it or anything, but I'm not super comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think?
Yeah. Oh, no. 100%. That's an issue, like, I feel kind of bad as a guns rights person to speak out against. So I wouldn't speak out against it. If it happens, it happens. I'm not going to lobby against it or anything. But I think about myself at that age, and, you know, dude, you'd want to show your gun off to all your friends. Yeah. Particularly when you're drinking. You know, like, hey, dude, look at this. This is what I got.
Yeah.
And, you know, odds are
that's
you
how
had
accidents
a lot of training.
Yeah.
I think the potential for accidents is greater than the potential threat there.
That you make a really good point there, actually. You know, with the drinking thing, and, like, you got a 21-year-old who's joined his 19-year-old frat brother, you know, like, oh, check out this new, you know, whatever I got here. And I don't know, I just, not to sound anti-gun, because if legislation passed or people are for it, like, I don't, that's fine, but I just not, like,
it's not something that I fight
like,
for. It's
I'm not rallying.
It's not like
around
suppressors where I'm
exactly.
like, you know, I would rally around that.
For sure.
More accessible to the public. But for you college students who are on campus and you want to think about maybe some ways to protect yourself a little bit better, one thing that's pretty cool is if a friend of mine, Ariel Siegelman, did a book, Stopping Bullets. I don't think that's the name of the YouTube video, but he's the owner of Draco Group, which is a security firm out of Atlanta, and he's like former Israeli Special Forces, and they did some ballistic testing, shooting different rounds through books in your book bag.
Oh yeah.
And makes for pretty good body armor.
Wow.
You know, so you take your book bag, you whip it around the front. Really? Or on the back, depending on which direction the shooter's in. And you got a little bit of protection at least to your vital organs, you know. The other thing is you can get body armor for your book bag and put it in your laptop compartment or just shove it in your book bag someplace. It's a little expensive. The body armor is. The books are definitely a cheaper way because you're probably carrying them anyway.
You better be.
Yeah, you better be. I don't know. Do they use that
many books anymore? Yeah. Everything's laptop.
So, all right. So put your laptop and get some body armor in there to kind of help keep yourself a little safer.
Tactical laptop.
A peace of mind. Yeah, tactical laptop. A bulletproof laptop. But I do have a bag that has some body armor in it.
That's cool.
And you can either get pistol or, I mean, if you're going to get, I don't know, if your concern is active shooter, you should probably get something that's rated for rifle rounds,
5.56 or 308 or whatever.
Yeah, maybe as high as 308. It's going to be a little heavier, a little bulkier, but if you're not carrying those books, you certainly have room for it in there.
Oh, yeah. Completely. That's cool. I want to ask you: have you ever seen like there's little kids who have like bulletproof backpacks? You ever see like they sell them like little kids like they
just have like body armor inside the backpack?
Yeah, it looks actually like a Kevlar backpack. Really, I think it's not like a rifle rated or anything like that, but they have them for like active shooters. And actually, I remember like seeing it like a week after like Sandy Hook, they were selling like crazy on the internet. It was like, you know, if you want your kid to get to school safe, you know, they were throwing like these backpacks on kids, and they're kind of stylish. They're actually pretty cool. I don't know the name of them. I'd have to like Google it. It's, you know, I haven't seen it in a while, but they were really popular. And I mean, you know, it might be
expensive.
Yeah, it's $200-300. Yeah, I think they're about that much. But I don't know the popularity of them now, but something interesting to think of. I mean, you know.
Well, even your laptop will have some ability to.
For sure.
Maybe we should shoot some old laptops one day.
Oh yeah,
with
I got a
some
few
different calibers.
That'd be cool.
Just to kind of see.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the money to throw down on body armor or a bulletproof backpack, grab some old books. Even if you're not reading them, throw them in there. You should have room in your backpack if you're not carrying books issued by the school anymore.
Yeah. Go to the library and get those books out.
Yeah. Fun. Rent the books. Check them out at the library so someone can put holes through somebody else's books.
Pointless now. But what I was gonna say is I also wanted to talk about, I said in the beginning, the binary trigger, which I've been wanting to talk with you about for a while, and we've been putting this off for the podcast.
I know.
And so I got the Franklin Armory binary trigger. I got the newest gen, the Gen 3 one, and it's a pull and release trigger for anybody who's not familiar with it. It goes in the AR-15. You can do an AR-15 pistols, lowers. It goes in the lower, so it's a trigger group. Comes with a enhanced spring, so it's supposed to push the bolt forward, so that way you don't have any bolt follow, or hammer follow, meaning like the hammer follows the bolt and you don't actually hit the primer with it. So I ended up putting about 500 rounds through it. I'll tell you what, I did it with a LWRC AR-15, and it's a piston-driven AR-15, so I don't know if that makes a difference or not. I would say I had first 150 rounds, I probably had 3 or 4 times where the bolt was outrunning the hammer, and I was like, this kind of sucks. But then I threw the suppressor on it, and for like a burst, for like a pull and release, I was doing it really quick. It was perfect. It was just running absolutely great. So when I was getting the hammer follow, I was doing mag dumps, pretty much flickering my finger as fast as I can to see what would happen, trying to empty out the mag. And I would say 2 out of, probably about 3 out of every 4 mags was good, but then there would be like 1 mag where I'd have like maybe two times where the hammer would follow. And it'd be kind of pointless at that point, because now I'd have to rack the bolt back, and it's like not super reliable. Not to put the binary trigger down at all. It could be the way I've set it up, because I've also read online that guys are fidgeting with their ARs, meaning heavier buffer, or stronger spring, or maybe don't go carbine, go carbine gas length, go rifle gas length, or mid-length gas length in your AR. So there's all sorts of things to tweak that could maybe make it right. But I'd say it's a pretty cool thing. I mean, having the pull and release for the burst mechanism, the idea of it to me is it's really, really cool. The follow-up shots are really, really on top of each other, and you're really double tapping without the double tap. So in terms of the experience I've had with it so far, I'd say I'm 80-85% satisfied if I can really quantify it. Like I said, the hammer follow kind of sucked, so that kind of like throws it off a little bit, and it makes you gotta stop your shooting and then re-rack. But I don't know if it has real applicable purpose, anything tactical, or anybody in the military would ever consider putting on one of their rifles, or whether the military would be interested in it. But it's kind of a fun toy, and it's not it's kind of the answer to, it's like the poor man's machine gun, I guess you could say,
Right.
Price was, I think, $455, I think I paid for, and I've had fun shooting it, really. I mean, overall, it's been a good experience. But yeah, I do have an SBR. I just got a tax stamp back a few weeks ago, but I finished the SBR, so I do have it in there, and I want to see how it works on the 10.3-inch Dano Defense upper I have. So I'll probably maybe mention something in the next episode about it, how it goes, or maybe I'll just throw something on YouTube and see how it goes. You guys can see for your own eyes. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and I know I want to let you try it one of these days.
Yeah.
And get you out there. And
hopefully we can get out soon and check that out.
Yeah.
I'm curious about it. I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
From like a tactical self-defense perspective, a couple concerns. One is, you don't want to outshoot your skill level.
Yeah.
Because then you have bullets flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
It turns that's where the toy comes in.
Yeah, which is where the toy comes in.
Yeah.
If you are shooting it like at the range, start aiming low, because
Yeah,
odds are it's gonna
yeah.
it's gonna raise, right? There's gonna be some muzzle lift on that.
Right.
The other thing that kind of concerns me about it is none of your other weapons operate like that.
Right.
So if you're trying to discriminate between targets,
Mm-hmm.
and not outshoot your skill level and put shots on target accurately, and just be kind of having some sort of consistency
Mm-hmm.
in the trigger. Like, all right, I'm always shooting a semi-automatic trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Even my since most of my pistols have a little bit of take up, I prefer like some take up on my rifles as well. You know, so I kind of have a similar feel and a similar reset on both that I've got to respond to. But as far as fun goes, I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun to be able to shoot that trigger. You know, I have a TacCon trigger, and I have never shot it on the burst mode.
The third setting, whatever that is.
Yeah. I guess I just, one, I feel like, man, I can't even outshoot, like, I can't outshoot my trigger on, you know, the semi-auto mode. Yeah. Like, you know, why would I go on, like, more of a burst mode? Yeah. And check it out. So, anyway, it sounds like fun. I'd love to try it. It's going to feel a little awkward at first, I'm sure.
For sure.
You know, you make sure your grip's tight and you're trying to keep that muzzle pointed in the safe direction.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things I think it would take a lot of practice to be proficient with to use in a self-defense situation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If your other weapons don't have a similar trigger, then
you're absolutely right.
That could be an issue.
But yeah, let me say this. I'll actually give Franklin Army a shout out. Their customer service is really great. I had an issue installing it initially and called them up. They like walked me through what to do. So it was really cool. Yeah. And it was really quick and painless, fixing whatever the issue that I misinstalled it as. So that was pretty cool. Just give them a shout out. But yeah, I guess that's a lot of what we want to talk about today, really.
Yeah.
We can kind of wrap it up.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, man, I'm ready to go.
All right. Sounds good. And if you guys are listening to this, throw comments down in the the comment section of YouTube. And, you know, give us your opinion on some of the stuff that we talked about. We'll definitely respond. Also, throw us a like and throw us a subscribe. That'd be dope.
Sounds great.
Cool. Later, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you have any comments or questions, ask below. And don't forget to check out our sponsors.